People think danger announces itself. In my house, it asks simple questions first. My name is Ethan Hale. I'm 40, a city planner who spends his days telling people where streets should breathe and where buildings should behave. I was married to Maya for 11 years. She handles communications for a healthcare nonprofit, press statements, town hall meetings, the polished sentences that hold a room together when the room wants to split. We bought the brick row house on Doolan Street because it looked like a place that knew how to keep its promises. 3 floors, narrow stairs, a small rectangle of backyard with a tired maple, and a fence that pretended to have seen worse. Doolan is the kind of block where people leave chalk drawings of stars on the sidewalk and still install cameras over their doors. It felt safe. That's the word you use when you want to stop thinking. The story I'm telling didn't begin with a fight. It began with a survey. One Thursday in late September, a link landed in our neighborhood app from an account called Signalman. 2 quick questions to improve safety on your street. I tapped without thinking. Q1. What time does your block get quiet? Q2. Which corner light is out? Civic-minded bait. I answered. After 10, northeast corner. Flickering. Beneath it, a gratitude emoji and, we'll handle it. Stay well. I showed it to Maya. She smiled with her mouth, not her eyes. Finally, someone paying attention to the right things, she said. The northeast light was fixed by Saturday. The lamp glowed steady, a small, obedient sun. On Monday night at 2:17 a.m., our landline rang once. We hadn't used it since the service bundled it with internet and hope. I let it ring. It stopped. The next day, the app pinged again. Thanks for the quick responses. Your street is safer already. There were 37 likes. I thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, a new poll. Q3. If you had to pick, which sounds more normal on your street, footsteps or engines? Q4. Does anyone park overnight near the alley? I picked engines, answered yes. The app thanked me. The weekend arrived and the alley gate left sagging, since we moved in, stood with new hinges and a fresh bolt installed by no one I'd paid. You didn't call anyone? I asked. No, Maya said, scrolling her planner. Maybe the city finally found our email from June. The third poll wasn't a poll. It was a direct message. Thanks for helping. One last favor. If a white SUV idles near the Maple for more than 5 minutes after 10 p.m., please leave your porch light on, steady. If it's a blue sedan, blink it twice. You can ignore any others. A small heart emoji. The sender's avatar remained a gray dot. I stopped. I reread it. It landed like somebody had measured our block in our sleep. I showed it to Maya. She closed the blinds, slow. Don't engage, she said. You think it's creepy? I think people who stage neighbors are worse than people who stage photos, she said, and changed the subject like a magician. The SUV showed up 3 nights later, 10:41 p.m., idling under the Maple like a thought without a sentence. I stood in the dark hallway listening to our house think. I did not turn on the light. The SUV rolled away at 10:47, quiet as an apology. Engines, I wrote in my head, not footsteps. The next morning, our mailbox held a sealed manila envelope. No return address, our names typed, our street typed, our town typed. Inside, a single photograph, taken from across Doolan with a good lens. In the upstairs window, Maya sits at her desk, looking left, not at the camera, not at me, but at something outside the frame. On the back, when did you stop asking good questions? S. I stared. It felt like a trick where the magician's hand is empty and your watch is inside his jacket anyway. I put the photo in a drawer behind winter socks and told myself hiding it would drag it into the past. 2 days later, the landline rang again at 2:17 once, then at 2:20 twice. I ignored both. At 6:30, I found a note under the doormat, the size of a parking stub, with a single word in block letters, twice. I put it in the drawer with the photograph and made breakfast like a man who used to believe in recipes. If you're waiting for the part where Maya starts coming home late and I begin calculating the arm's length of her lies, it's there. But it came like a watercolor drying. She already worked late. Her texts shifted tone. Fewer details, softer edges. Running behind, don't wait up, turned into, don't plan for me hug. The first time she said hug instead of my name, it felt like a small, polite pardon. I wanted to cash it, not frame it. One evening in October, she came home at 11:30 with the air of someone who had learned how to walk without any sound. I turned on the lamp beside the couch to say, "I see you." She flinched. She stepped into the kitchen, poured water, drank it in 3 long swallows and said, "Can you not leave the top light on? It makes it feel like a stage." "It's a lamp," I said. "It's a stage," she answered. "You use it to watch me arrive." I turned the lamp off and made my voice small. "Is there something I should ask you?" She put the glass in the sink like a vote. "Not tonight." The app message arrived the next morning like a friend who thinks they know when to call. "We're closing the alley from 10:04 for maintenance. Please use front entrances only. Thanks again for caring." Haras. There is a tone people use when they come into your house and rearrange your furniture for your own good. It took me a day to admit I was hearing it. I left work early and walked the alley and didn't see any cones, any trucks, any men in yellow shirts performing municipal theater. At the end by Monroe, behind a stack of pallets that didn't belong to anybody, sat a white plastic bucket with Alta printed on the side in faded navy. Inside, 4 heavy-duty flashlights, 2 packs of AA batteries, a roll of black tape, and a laminated card the size of your hand. Front light codes, steady safe, double blink. Wait, candle do not answer. No loud voices, no heroes. Yes. Underneath, a second card with our block's addresses printed in a grid, small circles by each number. Next to our number, a hand-drawn star. I took the flashlights and left the cards. I taped a flashlight under the top stair and one under the back step, and hid the other 2 where my fear could step on them and be useful. That night, the blue sedan parked for 9 minutes under the maple and nobody blinked anything. I stared at the switch like a button I had been warned about as a kid. At 10:58, I looked at Maya, who was watching a video of someone making bread on mute, and asked gently, "If someone needed to cross our porch without being seen, would we want to be part of that?" She looked at me like a person measuring a glass in their hand for cracks. "Is this a trick?" "No," I said. "Yes," she said and pointed toward the window. "And no, it depends. On who? On what? On how many men in hats are counting it?" The landline rang once that night, just after 2. I let it go. It rang twice 3 minutes later. I picked up. Silence arranged itself. Then a man's voice, mid-40s, careful. "Mr. Hale?" "Yes." "Leave the porch light on steady from 10:40 to 10:47. Then off. Then at 11:15, blink twice. If anyone knocks, ignore it." "Who is this?" "A neighbor with better timing," he said, "and a debt." "What debt?" "Your wife," he said, and hung up. I stood there holding the receiver like an actor who'd forgotten his line. I didn't tell Maya. I wanted to be the person she thought I was before I'd make her hate me for trying. At 10:40, I switched the light steady. At 10:47, I turned it off. At 11:15, I blinked twice. No one knocked. A minute later, footsteps hurried past our door, careful not to be a script. Then from deeper in the block, a car started with the quiet of a person who knows how far sound travels at night. I tried not to invent a movie. Maya thanked me in the morning without saying what for. She put her hand on my face like you put a hand on a wall to see if there's heat. "I have a board meeting tonight," she said. "Don't wait up." "Okay," I said. "Then because cowardice wears manners, I love you." She paused. She looked at the coffee. She looked at me. "Hug," she said. It was nothing. It was everything. I didn't follow her that night. I followed her phone. I am not proud of this. I am also not sorry. There are apps you're warned not to use, and there are apps you use anyway because language like quiet hours has slid into your living room and set its shoes by your plant. I watched the tiny dot go from Doolin to the medical district to a street 2 neighborhoods over I'd only driven when lost. It stopped behind a building with a mural of farm workers holding bright oranges, the kind of mural that tries to keep buildings from forgetting people. The dot stayed. At 10:31, it jumped 2 blocks like a person had been carried. At 11:12, it disappeared. I drove there telling myself I'd only look. A white SUV idled at the far corner. The blue sedan I'd seen by our maple sat dark under a half-dead street lamp. I didn't get out. A woman in a dark hoodie stepped from the alley and into the sedan. The car did not hurry. It left like a sentence with a period. The SUV idled. Another figure walked out a minute later, smaller. The SUV rolled and then stopped, 2 car lengths away. The second figure stood like someone who has been told to be a stone, even though her body is a mouth that wants to scream. I saw a man in the driver's seat of the SUV wave his hand in a gesture meant to be soothing. He did not get out. The second figure did. She got in. The SUV left in the opposite direction as the sedan. A few seconds later, the alley poured out another person who walked the other way. It felt less like a rescue than a choreography of refusal. I drove home very slowly. I sat at our kitchen table. I wrote 2 lines on a paper napkin like it mattered. Engines, not footsteps. No heroes. Then I threw the napkin away like a coward. The next morning, our mailbox held another envelope. Inside, another photograph. Me, in my car, through the windshield, staring at the alley. On the back, "Stay in your lane, planner." "Say, who is S?" I asked the house. Because I couldn't ask Maya, because I didn't want to watch her decide between telling me and teaching me. The third envelope arrived on a Wednesday and did not contain a photograph. It contained a key, small, brass, stamped with Unit 23. On a yellow sticky note, the same careful block letters. Tonight, 10:40-11:20. Steady, then candle, then off. If anyone knocks, ignore. If anyone leaves a box, do not bring it inside. A smudged initial at the corner. S. I showed the key to Maya. She took it like it might turn to ash or evidence. "What's Unit 23? I asked. "I don't know," she said. But her cheeks did that thing they do when a person's body tells the truth before language petitions the court. "Who is S?" "Don't let them make you important," she said. "It's their favorite trick." We slept in the same bed with a space between us like a letter on the fridge. At 10:40, I turned the porch light steady. At 11:20, I dimmed it to candle, the slow, low brightness our bulb makes when it's tired. At 11:24, I turned it off. No one knocked. At 11:27, a small cardboard box appeared on the edge of our porch, placed by a hand that didn't want to be remembered. I did not bring it inside. I sat on the stairs and watched it like it could detonate our lives into an easier configuration. At 11:41, a woman in a knit cap and a gray sweater walked briskly up the stairs, took the box, said thank you to the door like it was a person, and left. When I came up to bed, Maya was awake. I lay down and stared at the ceiling. "Am I a mark?" I asked. "You're a lamp," she said. We needed the light to be true. "Who's we?" The ceiling was quiet. Maya was quieter. When she answered, her voice had the softness you use to move a glass from a table without waking a child. "The people who think safety is a verb. Do you trust S?" "No," she said. "Yes. Enough. Not with my name. I did not sleep." At 2:17, the landline rang once. I let it. At 2:20, it rang twice. I answered. "You left the box," the man's voice said. "Good. Who are you?" "Someone who knows when to leave a street alone." "You took my photo." "Someone did," he said. "You look like the kind of man who would own a steady light." "It's my house," I said. "It's your porch," he replied. "The house belongs to the block." "I want to talk to S." "You are," he said, amused, and hung up. I didn't tell Maya. The next morning she kissed my temple and said something sweet and left a little early. I went upstairs after she'd gone to look for my watch and found a small sheet of paper tucked under the corner of her desk blotter. Unit 23, locker, Endicott storage, renew 1231, below it, Hale 0715. I stared at them like I could make it an apology. I put the paper back under the blotter because I did not want to be the person who saw it first. I went at lunch. Endicott storage sits behind the train tracks where the city forgets itself for 2 blocks and then remembers. Unit 23 belonged to no one according to the clerk with the voice of a busy church lady. "Key?" she asked. I held it up. She lifted a clipboard without looking at it. "Down the middle, second left." Unit 23 had one thing on the concrete, a plastic bin with a blue lid, the kind people buy when they believe order is a sport. Inside, prepaid phones in plastic, a child's backpack with a superhero on it, 2 bottles of insulin with cold packs still sweating, a Ziploc of medication bottles with labels half peeled, a small plastic folder of blank intake forms. On top of the forms, a Polaroid of a woman I didn't know holding a cat, smiling like someone had offered her a way to remember her face. On the back, in the same careful block letters, if you're looking because you want to be important, put this down. If you're looking because you've already chosen, buy 2 more coolers, please. I bought the coolers. I left them in the unit with ice packs I paid for in cash and felt like I had committed a crime and a kindness in one transaction. I told Maya that night while we stood by the sink, both of us doing the domestic lean. She closed her eyes like she was trying to see a map. I didn't want you to know because once you know, you can't unknown, she said. And they like men who know things about themselves more than they like men who want to own stories. What is this? I asked. What are you actually doing? Helping people not be found for a few hours, she said. And sometimes a few days. And sometimes long enough for the right official to do their job before the wrong man does his. She turned the faucet off and left the water sitting in the curve of the sink like a commons. And writing emails that make city councilors worry about their reputations. What about S? Maya opened a drawer like she'd never seen drawers before. S is a network, she said, or a man who believes he is, or a way to move instructions without having to say names. It's real enough to work. It's messy enough to be human. Is he dangerous? Only the way fire is, she said. Good in the right hands, wrong when a room forgets the exit. The next week was a basin that held more than it looked like. The white SUV began appearing every other night at 10:41 and leaving at 10:49 whether or not any woman in a cap came out of an alley. The blue sedan moved like a thought that had learned patience. The landline learned a new pattern. 3 rings at 2:22, which meant do nothing. The porch light learned mine. On Tuesday, an envelope sat on our porch like a small challenge. Inside, a single page, typed in the way men who want to be sure they won't be caught type. No fingerprints, no personality. Ethan, I've enjoyed your spreadsheets from afar. City planner, right? Doolin wants a policy man. You can be useful or you can be a problem. Useful means the light codes continue and the alley stays quiet from 10 to 4. Useful means no sudden heroes. Problem means you'll find out what 0705 is in a way you don't get to choose. I put the page on the table. I stared at the number. No one had told me 0715. The paper under Maya's blotter had told me 075. I felt my lungs react. Maya, I called without meaning to. She came downstairs with a yes in her throat. I slid the page across. She read. She folded it. She unfolded it again. She looked at me like a person collecting a sample. I can handle this, she said. How? By not letting it change our faces, she said. By doing the thing that works. By not turning around to introduce ourselves to fear. 0715, I said. She breathed in through her nose. That one's not for you. Then why did S write it? Maybe because S wants to remind me that he can read a desk, she said. She looked tired in a way that doesn't sleep off. Or maybe to make you feel included. She smiled then. An awful brave thing. People who run networks like to make men feel included. It's cheaper than paying them. I did something I've rarely done. I went to the police. Detective Ree listened with the fatigue of someone who has learned the world invents new rooms for pain faster than she can find doors. She wrote down signalman, white SUV, blue sedan, Endicott 23715, Maya S. She asked no leading questions. She asked tired ones. Do you believe your wife is in danger? No, I said, and then yes, and then I don't know how to grade danger in this class. Do you think S is law enforcement? I think S wants to be inevitable, I said. Ree gave me a card and a sentence. If someone knocks and you get the candle flicker, call me before you do anything. And by anything, I mean anything. She looked at me like a sister and a judge. We like people like you alive. I didn't tell S. I couldn't. S didn't give me a number that listened. S gave me postcards and instructions and the feeling of being watched by a good ghost with rules. On Friday at 11:11 p.m., a knock came. 3 knuckles, polite. The porch light, which I had left steady, sputtered and then did the candle thing lower and softer, like a held breath. I didn't move. From the other side of the door, a voice. Utilities. Another knock, less polite. City, we're checking signals. Maya stood in the hallway with me. Her jaw was a shape I knew. Fear in her never looked like an open mouth. It looked like a doorframe. Don't answer, she said. We didn't. 10 minutes later, tires rolled and a car left. We stood in the dark like people who had earned it. The little phone I'd bought after Endicott buzzed. A message, good. Another, X715 is a door. Another, don't open it. Then an afterthought I hated for liking. Thank you. The next morning, the maple's roots looked freshly kicked, like a boy had been told to be a man before breakfast. I found a glove there. Big, canvas, oil stains. The kind men who load freight wear when they want to feel like they're not. Inside a coin, not money, a token, stamped with a circle and a small moth. I didn't show Maya. I put it in my pocket and carried it for a day like a borrowed lie. It was only a week later that my private courage ran out. The envelope stopped. The landline calmed. The app posted about pumpkins. I let myself believe we had convinced the street to be ordinary again. Then a letter arrived with a real stamp and a return address 2 towns over. Inside, a single line, hand-printed with the earnest pain of someone new at this. If you don't open Orlo 715, he will. I went to Endicott because I am, despite everything, movable. Unit 23 looked like itself. The blue-lidded bin looked like it had before and after each time I'd visited. I looked up at the number stenciled on the door. 23. I looked at the row of units. I counted backwards by 2 because that's how I count when I'm scared. 23, 21, 19, 17, 15. 07 was the other row. Second aisle, Unit 15. The lock on 15 looked newer than its neighbors. I did not have a key. I did have a coin. I slid the moth token into the lock because that's the kind of action movies teach you, and men like me pretend not to have learned. The lock didn't open. The lock looked bored. I breathed heavily. A woman's voice behind me. You were told not to open it. I turned. Gray sweater, knit cap. The eyes not surprised to recognize me. Moth. Up close, she looked like an accountant in a good fight. She raised one eyebrow like people only do outside of fiction if they mean it. You like doors, she said. I like my wife, I said. She likes you, Moth said. She also likes doors. She gets to like both. She held out her hand. Coin. I gave it to her because there are some women you don't lie to without it making you uglier immediately. She held it for a second, as if it had a temperature, then put it in her pocket. Do you need a sentence? She asked. I need the last safe answer, I said. You don't get one, she said. Not in this story. She looked at Unit 15, then back at me. What you get is an instruction. Okay? Go home. Don't open things unless a woman tells you to. Stop making yourself feel brave by walking near doors you don't own. If someone knocks after 10:40 and your light is candle, call Ree. If someone knocks and it's steady, leave the light on and shut up. If your wife asks you to buy ice, buy ice. Don't ask if it's for a party. She paused, softening by a half degree. Do you know how to love someone who became larger when you weren't looking? I'm learning, I said. Good, she said, because she's learning too. I went home. I didn't tell Maya I'd found 0715. She didn't tell me she knew I had. That night we watched a bad movie where the good man makes a grand speech and the room starts clapping because speeches are easier than policy. We didn't clap. We folded laundry. She put a sock on my shoulder and left it there like a flag. 2 nights later, Wednesday, the block went very quiet at 10:42. Engines, not footsteps, but they were far away. The porch light was off. I stood in the hall with my hand on the switch like an actor who has learned not to improvise. At 10:45, a knock. 3 knuckles, soft, specific. The light went candle by itself. I didn't move. Another knock. Maya put her hand on my wrist and shook her head. The knock came one more time, and then it stopped. Tires. A car leaving. A breath I didn't know I'd been holding left with it. At 10:58, blue and red lights turned the end of the block into theater. 2 cruisers, then 1, then none. Detective Ree walked our sidewalk at 11:12, hat under her arm, tired in a way I hadn't seen before. She looked at me and at the light and at my hand still on the switch. "Good," she said, low, as if praising a dog who had learned not to chase a car. "We moved him. Don't be a movie." "Who?" "A man who likes doors," she said. "Is S helping you?" Ree's laugh was kind and mean to herself. Sometimes I hate that we live in a world where the answer to that question is still yes and no at the same time. She pointed at our porch light. "Keep it honest." She walked away toward the cruiser and the map of the block I couldn't see. Maya came up behind me and rested her chin on my shoulder. "Do you want to leave?" she asked. "No," I said. "I want to learn how not to want speeches." "That might be the bravest sentence you've ever said," she whispered, and it hurt me how much I enjoyed the compliment. "I wish I could give you an ending that makes a noise you can clap over. What I have is this. S stopped sending envelopes. The app posted about snow shoveling. The white SUV came twice in a week and then didn't come for 2. The blue sedan changed make. The landline still rings once, some nights at 2:17 and twice at 2:20, and I answer, and a voice that could be S or could be decent tells me to do small, unfancy things like leave the light steady or buy ice. Detective Ree sends me a text once a month that says nothing more dramatic than checking in. Moth has never come to the house. She does leave a spare battery by the maple roots on Wednesdays sometimes, and a fresh bulb in our mailbox without a note. When I see the moth token in my mind, I don't think of secret societies. I think of the brittle, earnest way small things find light without burning. Maya and I are not fixed, we are truer. She asked me some nights very quietly, "Can you hold the porch while I hold the phone?" And I say yes because that is our math. She kisses me with her mouth and her eyes when she can. Some mornings she says hug, and some mornings she says Ethan, and both hurt in different, necessary ways. Sometimes late, I take out the photograph of her in the window and the one of me in the car and put them side by side on the table and stare until the room stops trying to teach me something. I don't know who took them. I don't know if S is a man or an art project or a harmless narcissist who accidentally engineered a useful habit. I do know the block is quieter now in the useful way, not in the frightened way. I know engines are easier to log than footsteps. I know a white SUV idling is not proof of malice, but is an invitation for attention. I know our porch light can be a language and a neighbor both. I still work at the city. I still draw lines where trees should go. When I review permits, I look a little harder at egress and lighting plan. Sometimes I write comments that don't sound like me. Consider randomized timer for porch light after 10 p.m. for safety. It gets accepted half the time. Half is a luxury. If you need a final scene, you can have this one. Last week at 2:20 a.m., the landline rang twice. I answered. The man's voice didn't introduce itself, and neither did I. He said, "At 10:40, steady. At 10:57, candle. At 11:03, off. No knocks tonight. Thank you." Before he hung up, he said something that made Maya stir in her sleep like a long wave had reached her. "Tell her the door is still a door," he said. I did not say it to Maya. She knew it already. In the morning, she kissed me and said my name and asked if I could pick up ice on the way home. I said yes without asking why. I bought 2 bags. The block held. The maple didn't fall. The alley stayed quiet the way good rooms do when they know a tired person is sleeping. I put a new bulb in the porch fixture and left the old one on the kitchen counter, cool and honest in my palm. I set the moth token in the drawer with the photographs and the first note in the napkin I wrote on like a child. I shut the drawer. The last safe answer I get is this. I can be a place where the light is true. I can be a husband who doesn't write his wife into a perfect story when the useful one is harder. I can stand by a door and choose not to be a hero. I can turn the lamp off when she asks. Tonight, if the porch light blinks twice, I won't open. If it stays steady, I will leave it alone. If the landline rings once and then again, I'll pick up, say nothing, and listen. The maple will scratch the window like an animal deciding if it belongs to us. Engines will be more normal than footsteps. And in the house I thought I bought, because it knew how to keep its promises, we will keep making new ones. Quiet, small, and exact. The kind that turn out to be the only kind that survive. If this story left you thinking long after it ended, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more dark, emotional, and gripping stories every week. And who knows? The next story might just be darker than this one.